I get it.
Mbijan raganya.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la.
Ha, code nyingi.
Okay. What's that? Nsila ID soto.
That's sorry. I get it.
Mbijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariya.
Mbare.
Mo ki janna nun kunu bara tariya.
Jannom yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbari ya bere. Birim koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato ni fo bolong labe.
56 branches mola soto Gambia ja.
Ha?
Gambia kono ani Gambia bantala bankol. Nko kodo kiya bere. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta même na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw. Jannom number 1 ti nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi man domorol din fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je.
Wo moyo diat.
Apelenta
baraka. Ni ma lafta nyelen kendol e bina.
Yalo bukani la ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Baraka.
Gamcell data, now even better. Enjoy 20% extra data on all Gamcell data bundles. Buy 20 megabytes and get extra 4 megabytes. Buy 50 megabytes and get extra 10 megabytes. Buy 100 megabytes and get extra 20 megabytes. Any amount of Gamcell data bundle you buy, you will receive 20% extra data for free. Dial *302* data amount hash or go to your Yaiborom menu and choose your data bundle now. Gamcell data is fast, lasts longer and very reliable. Gamcell Yaiborom.
Alright.
Honey, did you remind him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But
don't you know about Baluwo?
Baluwo? What is Baluwo?
Baluwo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Baluwo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baluwo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluwo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria or Mali. Baluwo, better than sending money.
For the first time in the history of the Gambia Printing Publishing Corporation proudly introduces the Biliomatic exercise book printing machine. The machine has the capacity to print more than 20,000 books per hour. Yes, 20,000 books per hour. It also prints magazines, newspapers, calendars, flyers, normal books and all kinds of printed documents plus items at affordable prices. With the Biliomatic printing machine, GPPC can now render high-quality and non-size restricted printing service supply across the sub-region. Rush now and partner with GPPC for all your public and private printing service needs. Print with us today and you'd be offered highly professional, reliable and efficient service delivery by our team of experts. The Gambia Printing and Publishing Corporation is here to meet all demands and is reliable at all times. For more info, contact us on 437-4493 or 437-4402. GPPC is Gambian and it's yours.
Back to the brunch on Fatou Live. I'm Lamin Cham. This is our weekly look at the major stories of the past 7 days. This week, Solo Sandeng finally got a farewell, a fitting one, so to speak. The Gambia government put up an official state funeral for the man who is considered to be a catalyst to Gambia's newfound democracy. In this panel, we will discuss also just exactly what happened on April 2016 when Solo went out to protest against the lack of electoral reforms. What has happened since then, and what should be the legacy of Solo Sandeng? We will revisit the ceremony at the now named Never Again Arch. We will also discuss what are the fate of the reforms that Solo was advocating for until he laid down his life. And with me in the studio to do that is Marr Nyang. He is the Executive Director of a civic society organization called Gambia Participates. Sheriff Samsidin Sarr, an expert, security expert, a former army commander, had some views on what happened in 2016 and how the way forward, how it could be prevented. We'll also have his thoughts here. We're expecting the police PR, or deputy police PR, or Mr. Davon, so we hope he can make it. And a member from the Solo Sandeng Foundation, who were at the, in the lead in the organizing the state funeral, or taking part in the state funeral organized by the Gambia government. So, gentlemen, welcome to the program. Solo Sandeng, finally, after 6 years, has been given a befitting, traditional, and official burial. It was an emotional ceremony because, if for anything, he died 6 years ago. His body had to be exhumed and, put through a court process, which eventually, ended in the conviction of the former Director General of the NIA and 4 others who's been responsible, who made responsible by the courts for his murder. So, Marr, you probably might have not been there, but you followed the trial itself, Solo's death, and this funeral that happened last week, Tuesday. How, in your point of view as a civic society, or should I start with Sam?
No, I wanted to just ask for probably a minute silence or praying for him.
Oh, all right, that's normal, yes.
Before we start.
So we take it from where the funeral was. We have 30 seconds. We take Sam's proposals. We take a 30 seconds
and pray
silence
for his soul.
prayers.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, everybody agreed, whether you agreed with him or not, or his political views, or that he definitely was a martyr. What he has done in April 2016 actually was for the cause of the country. He eventually had to lay down his ultimate prize, which is his life. How did you react, both in terms of your personal capacity as a member of the civic society?
Well, I think until today we're still talking about electoral reform. I think when the coalition government came into office, they should have actually realized that there were people that actually sacrificed their lives for them to be where they are at the time. And the reason why they were in the streets was issues of electoral reform, because they believe that prior to the 2016 election, there has to be electoral reform for the elections to be more transparent. But the election law also is a very old law, although it was amended in 2015, but as it was a decree in 1996, and then I believe amended in 2015. Until today, we, the civil society, are still also talking about electoral reform. The issue of undue influence that normally is being seen at the incumbent during the Jammeh period, we've been seeing that happening. And unfortunately, it's the same thing happening in the current government that we are seeing. And then also vote buying, use of state resources, and then also, most of the time, I believe during elections, I think some of the reforms that are actually coming is access to media. Political parties are now having access to media, but the legislation hasn't changed. There has been an election bill that was actually tabled before Parliament in 2020. Until today, that election bill is not actually legislated. And then we are moving to the local government election in 2 months. We're going to be still using this old election law that even politicians believe that the election law should be amended. Even the IEC also believe that the election law should be amended. Now the amendment is there, the bill is there, but nothing has been done to it to actually legislate this bill. So I think the death of Solo should have been an alarm to every patriotic Gambian, patriotic politician to know that there is someone else who actually went out of the street. He was not a candidate. He was not, how to call it, someone else vying for a political office, though he was part of a political party. But the electoral reform that he was advocating for was not for his political party. It was for the greater good. And, you know, having those, in fact, coming from his own party that are in the National Assembly should have been the one championing, pushing for this election law, because the committee where this election bill is referred to, there is a member of his party in there. So they have to make sure they continue pushing this, continue lobbying to make sure it is a priority on the agenda of the National Assembly, so that there is an election, a new election law. Look, I mean, we're heading towards the 2026 presidential election. I mean, that it has to start now. And then the plan was, before the 2021 election, there was supposed to be an election, a new election law. And I always keep saying it is very tricky to use a new election law in a presidential election. The presidential election is the biggest election in this country. Given, for example, Nigeria, they have a new election law, but you know what they did? As they are moving towards their election next month. Yeah, last year, July 2022 was when they started using that election law. In the equity elections, right? Where they have this BVAS technology for accreditation. So they tested it in that gubernatorial election, and they are now seeing the weaknesses, so that before the presidential election they will fix it. But it seems like for us, we are going to be moving forward to having a new election law in 2021, except if they do what they call election simulation with that particular new law, which I hardly see happening in many countries.
And when you said a law with features such as ballot box, ballot paper, or whatever.
And then also you have to look at the rate of you know, citizen, you know, familiarity with these paper ballots, right? We've been used to using the marble. Now, if the government wanted to shift towards a more cost-effective elections using paper ballots, the level of civic education has to be at least 1 or 2 years, right? For you know, citizens to be familiar with the because you're going to be having multiple elections happening the same day. So for you to avoid having a lot of invalid votes, the preparation have to be way ahead. So to just go back to your question, I think for us, the civil society, you know, in fact, this will have been called the solo Sunday election bill. That will have been I mean, you know, we are not good at remembering our heroes. In other countries, in the US, there are bills that are named after individuals.
Yeah, even in Senegal, they built
so we don't do that. You know, I think it's an opportunity. Not to be political, I don't belong to the UDP, I don't belong to any political party, but I think, right, to honor the legacy of Solo Sanding and the others that have passed away, fighting for what we are, you know, enjoying today, being seated here, be able to criticize the government and do all. There are people that sacrifice their blood and life for it. So I think the election bill, with all due respect, should have been named after him.
What do you make of the official funeral? I mean, you know, what had happened was that, of course, the government had always identified itself with programs that aim at reforming, you know, some of the laws that have existed on the Gambia. And even in this electoral law, for example, when the parliamentarians came, they changed the law that now allow people not to pay that kind of money for candidates to pay on the Gambia. You remember $500,000 if you want to be a presidential candidate, they reduced that. And the age brackets that that bar people from contesting office, they changed that, as well as the area where a parliamentarian may not automatically lose his or her seat if she or he crosses over to another party. But there are a whole lot of lists, that have not been changed, and people are criticizing the government and the parliamentarians for not changing that. Do you think with the pace they have, there was a possibility for them to be able to change the whole system? For example, the area which says that whoever has a government ID card or government document is automatically entitled to vote. I mean, in the past, even if you come with a diplomatic passport, the electoral officer, in this case the IEC, are the people who have powers to determine whether you are definitely a Gambian who's eligible to vote. But that power was taken from them by that amendment that Jammeh brought in. But that's still there. I mean, that's what brought problems in the last election. People are saying that, oh no, the foreigners registered, etc., because they torn up with Gambian ID cards. And recently we had one Senegalese National Assembly member saying that most part of his area, you know, most people in his area have Gambian documents. So do you think with the time they had, the opportunity they had, this parliament or this government could have done a lot more in changing the electoral laws than they have actually done?
Well, yeah, they do have the time. It's been almost, 7 years, if not already 7 years. When they came into office, the legislation that they have amended, first thing they did was to change the age limit for a vice president. That was of their interest, so that they can have their vice president that they wish to be their vice president at the time, who wasn't qualified as per the age bracket that was capped in the law. And they changed it, they fast-tracked that, and they changed it at the National Assembly. The other thing, as we are moving towards the parliamentary elections, they went ahead and then also changed the fees that you were talking about that political parties have to change. And then when they get into when parliamentary also got into office, they wanted to cross-cap it, and they protected themselves for not being removed from their seat once they cross-cap it too. So most of those amendments were done because it was of their interest, and it also protects them. But now the greater good of the amendment that they were supposed to do, that didn't happen. I mean, there are so many, even them, the politicians, they still believe that there are certain clauses in the election bill that in the Elections Act that have to be amended. The issue of campaign financing, right? The issue of nominations, right? All of these are not. There are certain provisions in the elections bill, in the Elections Act, that are not well spelled out, and this election bill now is actually, making all of those things to be more comprehensive. And then the issue of attestation as well, right? Some politicians and even Gambia are saying this issue of attestation have to be a thing of the past, right? No, sound-minded Gambians should be of 18 years without having a voter's card, or without having an ID card for you to be eligible to have a voter's card. Why do we still have to go through the primitive way of alcalos? Look, the way the Gambia was in the 90s, in the early 2000s, is different. Before, alcalos are seen as the custodian of the land. Alcalos know everyone who comes into their community and they leave. And they're more or less like, they have the village memory. Right, so they can attest that this person is from my village. But now people are moving from one place to another. The population is growing. The alcalos cannot know the number of people that are living in their communities. And as a result, most of the attestations that have been done, they can just attest, but they cannot know the background of someone else. If a Senegalese politician is actually making that allegation, I don't have the evidence, but it could be true. It could be true because during the 2016 election, there was allegations that there are certain voters card at the APRC bureau that were actually gone down because
before the election.
Yes. So I think the electoral reform that he was advocating for, right? And when the politicians get into office, they should have actually do those electoral reform, but not to do a reform that only benefits them and then leave others aside. At the end of the day, it's going to come to hunt them down.
Sam, did we do well, or could we have done better with the legacy of Solo Sunday, given what happened?
Yeah, I got a different perspective from the whole situation, and it's not very popular.
Well, at this point, I think we welcome a member from the Solo Sunday Foundation, Mohammed, actually, son of the late late Ibrahim Solo Sunday. Modu, Mohammed, welcome.
Thank you very much, Lamin, and good afternoon to Mark and as well as the other guy.
Sarr.
Okay, Sam, how are you? So, I'm happy to be here and hope to have a fruitful, sound-minded and sane discussion.
First of all, we have to really commiserate with you, and we know it will be hard for you because while all of us, most Gambians are discussing Solo Sunday, for you it was a father, not just a figure. So we really empathize with you, what you must have gone through the past week, although many people will be celebrating that he's been given a hero's farewell, but for him, he was a father you've lost. We're sorry about that. Yes, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, like
I said,
his presence is going to change a lot of my, approach to it. But I will talk.
It doesn't have to, sir.
Yeah,
because I have listened to your audio.
Yes.
And I would love you to hold on to that and let's have a discussion.
Okay, good. Now, what I'm saying is that the solo standing issue, I was in America when it happened. I was in New York. I was at the UN. And before that event, I was following every event. I was the army commander. You know, I wrote a book.
Yes, about it.
And I followed every development of the Jammeh era until the day he left the Gambia.
Yes.
And continued to do the same thing. Now, my perspective of the solo standing issue is different from how a lot of people are looking at it.
Okay.
In that this issue of solo standing coming to protest for electoral reform has not been clearly defined anywhere. What were the exact things that he was asking for? Different interpretations came because nobody knows exactly what the electoral reform is. I was listening to Falang Sonko 2 days ago, back to the TRRC.
Oh, Falang Sonko testified.
Yeah, Lamin Falang Sonko, his testimony at the TRRC. And when Esafal started it, he told him, oh, solo standings coming out, was it because of the electoral reform that was going on and you were against it? He said, yes. It's still on YouTube, you can listen to it. I thought Asa was going to ask him further, what were they exactly? He never asked. Then, in the middle of his testimony, he talked about when solo standing came from Dhaka with all the paraphernalia and the funding to go out in the streets. He told him that we are going out because 4 years ago, we wrote a petition for an electoral reform and there is no response from the government. So for that reason, we have to go out. That's what he said. Different from what Esa Fall started and he endorsed it. And Esa never again asked him, hey, what were the electoral reform?
Okay.
You go to, if you listen to Panderimbai before everything fall apart, he was saying the electoral reform was about Aliu Mabanjai, that he was a corrupt IEC chairman who should be removed. Already Jammeh bought him, gave him $400,000 US. That's like something photo memory in my head.
Okay.
You know, but after everything fell apart, he changed his own approach to the whole issue. Other people also said, well, UDP was supposed to even find a flag bearer in their last Congress because Usainu Dabo is no longer qualified because of the age limit in the Constitution. And that is why Solo Sanding went out to ask for that electoral reform so that he will be qualified. That's another speculation. Telling just to come back to the fact that nobody could definitely tell you what Solo Sanding was pursuing. But I know, and I argued about it, that months before that, today, I sent you the audio of this Lamin Choks Jata from Bakau, who is a UDP candidate, explaining how the genesis of the whole thing, that before the whole demonstration, they were mobilized, convinced, instigated by Duga. He named Usainu Mbenga, which I know
Duga is the civic society, Gambian Diaspora People's Democracy.
Yes.
Gambian.
What was it?
I have never come to know even the acronym. What the acronym is all about.
It's a democratic
Union of Gambian Activists.
Exactly.
You know, I never really come to know the
Democratic Union of
I was
Gambian
writing
activists.
the last time.
It was one of them. There were several of them.
Yes, but Duga was in Washington, D.C.
Yes, that's right.
And it was not only because after the December 30th attack, after it failed, that's when they started talking about the failure of that, plus the the change of government in Burkina Faso, 14 October to 18th October, or 28, I think, when the civil society came out and brought down Compaoré. That's where they were basing their approach of the Gambian situation, saying that they are going to lead a similar thing and they will come and initiate it here. I heard them over the radios. They were being interviewed. They were not hiding it.
So when people organized people to come and protest,
yes,
and not to fight, but to protest,
yes,
they sponsored them, they mobilized them,
yes,
or in your word, instigate them,
yes.
Is that a crime?
It's not a crime except until it becomes an intention to bring down a government.
You mean Solo Sunday's protest, we saw him with a loudspeaker and some banner behind him. You think that was an attempt to overthrow the government?
That is what he was told to do from those people. And there was nothing hidden about it.
But he was not holding a gun.
No, it's not a gun. In Mali, they brought the government, it was not a gun. In Burkina Faso, the same thing, no gun.
Oh, you mean it was meant to start a mass uprising?
In Egypt, in Tunisia, no guns. It was civilians who came and brought down the government because of the pressure to say, we don't want this government. And that was the whole intention. And that's what they pushed for. Now, what I don't understand is today, if you listen to this crooks, Jatta, he is saying that, Choks Jatta rather, that Mahdi was supposed to even be in part of the leaders. And that last minute...
When is this Choks audio? Just now?
Oh, I sent it to you last night.
Is just recently, or it's an old
No,
one?
just now.
Because you mentioned the TRRC testimony of one...
No, Fan Lang Songko was the first... He was the first person to say that when they when in the TRRC, he's still there, when Solo went to Dakar to get the money and the paraphernalia, loudspeakers, he came to Karang, he called him and said, I got everything, are you ready? We're going to bring the government down. Okay. Come. And he got him, drove him to Birkama, and that's where they had their last meeting. But listen to me, when they met, the day of the uprising, which was on the 14th, they were told by Duga that they have already mobilized a lot of Gambians who are going to join them at Bambo. So they went there 8 o'clock until midday. Nobody showed up, including Mahdi, who switched off his telephone.
Which Mahdi?
Mahdi Jobate.
Okay.
And crossed and went to Senegal. Just like 1994. I know officers who were part of the coup d'etat. The morning of the coup, they left and went to Berending or to the North Bank and said they had some events going on there. So what I'm saying, if I were part of the Solo team, hey, I would have said, look, we have been here since in the morning. These people who were pushing us are nowhere to be seen. Let's stop it. Because what you did not understand, somebody even told me that already the NIA had infiltrated them. And what they used to do in the diaspora is, when they incite you, those inciters would have people who will go back, call the government and say, they are doing this thing. Be mindful, they're coming. And they will plant inside, just like the 30th December attack. They were talking to the senior officers in the army. They did not know that all those meetings were being conducted at the NIA, who told them, come, we will even have you a place where you're going to live. That's why they brought that amount of money, amount of weapon, thinking that when they come, the soldiers, because that's what they were told, the soldiers are ready. All they need is to start it, and they will arm, and they will help you.
They were naive.
So you see, this is the same mentality they put in those demonstrators, that we are going to, in fact, Hussein Mbenga said it over and over that he was going to lead it.
Okay, so according to you, Solo and others were instigated by people, opposition elements in the diaspora, who are, well, we know them as...
I wish you did, I hope you did. I'm so afraid that, I'm sorry you did not listen to the audio I sent you.
It's just...
And that's a UDP guy.
I heard what you said is true. I had your own, I'm talking about your own. So even if that was the case, they were instigated or mobilized by people outside who had an ulterior motive of bringing down the government, whatever way it is, by mass uprising, as it happened, in the Maghreb.
No, that's what happens now.
Okay.
In Mali, in Burkina Faso, that's what happened.
But does that justify the kind of terror that Jammeh responded by?
No, listen, there is no justification. It was the police who arrested these people and illegally handed them over to the NIA.
Yes.
There is another audio. In this same audio, this guy is saying that Solo Sandeng was even interviewed, was submitted to the courts, and he said that they were a team and Madi Jobate was part of it, and he disappeared at the last minute. So this was not, he probably could have even had a pre-existing condition and probably suffered heart attack. But they said he was interviewed, that those things are being forbidden from the public. People don't know about that. So many of them were arrested, and so many of them were subjected probably to the same kind of torture and brutality. 6th of September, 1994, if you were at Mile 2 and see the torture that the soldiers went through, the ordinary feeble heart will collapse under those conditions.
So,
but what was wrong to me, what was so wrong was when he died, they tried to hide the evidence and everything and buried him quietly. That was the worst thing the government did.
But then that suggests that they have all along planned. It has been.
No, it might not be. It could be a reaction to. Listen.
You said since '94. You described the torture that happened in November '94.
Yes.
And we were talking about maybe 12 years after.
Yes.
So torture and this kind of thing was systematic in the system. So
no, this is part of of government reaction to public disobedience since Jawara's days. They beat people.
Yeah, but
they make sure when you are a threat to the national security, people come to the extreme and use excessive force, which is wrong.
So it's wrong.
It is wrong. It is wrong.
All right. So now we can get to Sunday, who has just come. Have a telephone. All right. We may have a caller also or telephone. He wants our telephone to go. All right, Mr. Sandeng. As I said, I know this must be a little bit hard for you. Well, your father, of course, has become a national figure, so you expect people to have.
I'm afraid I did not even close my line before you are taking me out. But I wanted to just finish up by saying that it was an event that I honor. In fact, that's why I said before we started, let's give him some prayer. Some prayer.
Silent prayer.
But what I also think is that instead of painting it in a rosy way that it is not, we should have also brought the attention of the nation to the inciters, the instigators who are still out there pushing for violence, pushing for by force change of government. And we saw it in the recent coup d'etat that was planned, and I know it was a coup d'etat that was planned. I know when coup d'etats are being planned and why and how.
Good. All right, Solo, what would be your take on that? Sam, of course, when you did that, many people took your contribution to be disrespecting the legacy of Solo Sandeng.
Well, no, I said, you remember 1990, when it happened?
Yeah, you don't
when it happened, listen, when it happened,
you don't think
those who incited them, one of them came to my office with a secret tape. Listen to me. You remember that? He came with a secret tape. He never told me. Later on, I told him because my secretary told me, the guy has a tape recorder. But I said, I'm going to be frank with him. Good. And he sat there, listen to me, and he asked me, why do you kill this guy in a peaceful demonstration? And I said, I did not even know that. And I did not. I did not even know that anybody had died in this demonstration. But what I can tell you is that
you guys, listen,
I'm going to that. I said, you are part of those who organized this, raised funds, and said they must bring the government down. You are ready to fund it, and you send the money. I know that, and I am telling you, if I were in charge of the security of the Gambia, and you push this agenda, I will open fire on everybody.
That was outrageous.
Listen, yes, because he took 11 seconds of that statement and broadcast it worldwide. He was in my office for 1 hour. He never disclosed what I said to lead to that short statement.
But even that alone, to say that even, the circumstances you described, even that was the case, you were going to shoot everybody down.
No, I did not say I would shoot everybody. I said, if I am a security officer, and you pay people, mobilize them to bring down my government, I will shoot anybody in my presence.
All right.
And that's my principle. I am a soldier. That's what we do.
But you imagine that has really made people to say you disrespected.
No, I did not disrespect anybody because that guy was a crook. If he had, if he had given the whole context, if he had given the whole context, excuse me, if he had given the whole context of what I said that day, I swear nobody will say anything because I was referring to him because he was part of those who funded the whole uprising.
Good.
And
you realize since your contribution in this matter, people have been outraged by what you have said. They said you have shown nothing but disrespect to somebody. Even the government agreed. Now, even the government. I'm putting it to you that even the government respected some way what Solo had done. But when you are saying Solo was just some charlatan who sent himself to get into trouble through the screwing of some people who were opposed to the government. You never believed that what he fought for was genuinely necessary because of the dictatorial tendencies we had in power. And you were dining and whining with the dictator who himself...
I never dine and wine with any dictator. When I was army commander, everybody knew I was found in the system, and I fought the system. And when I did not have him, I left the country in 1999, and I was against the system. You guys were all here.
Let's get Marr. I was going to say to Mr. Sarr that if citizens are dissatisfied with the type of government that they have voted to be in the office, a government that takes life, a government that steals their money, and they go out to demonstrate for that particular government to resign, there should not be any open fire. The ones that are going to open firing on them, the firearms that they have, the uniform that they are putting on, the life that they are living is from those people that are demonstrating, that are telling them that we are dissatisfied with what you are doing. So there is no demonstration or protest, peaceful protest for that matter. I did not see any arm being used by the protesters. I did not see any ammunition also being used by the protesters. So it is not a justification to say that when people come out to protest against my government, it's not your government, it's the government of the people that are dissatisfied with the type of ruling that they are receiving. They have been tortured. Their wealth are being stolen from them. Their rights are being taken away from them. They cannot live in a peaceful environment. Their neighbors are being killed. People are being missing. Why can't people go out and demonstrate? We do not vote for that particular government to come into office. So it is really, I do not really agree that protesters should actually be subject to that. Even whether you are a soldier, or not, you are a soldier to protect lives, not to destroy lives. Yes. So when the people that you are protecting, when they come out to, soldiers should not be into politics. It was the people and the government. The people vote in a government, and the government was supposed to represent the needs and aspirations of the people. If the government fails to do that, the people can protest, and they can protest when the parliamentarians hear the voices of the people going out to protest. That's the reason why they have the power to impeach presidents. Yes. But they should not be fired. We have to make that clear. No, whether you like what they are protesting for or against, they should not be subject to any torture. Like I said earlier on, I am not part of any political party, but when political parties or political activists goes out and then protest for reform, that's what we will see. Any protest, as a civil society, any protest, right? Whether there is funding or not, there is a dissatisfaction. There is a change that you are protesting for. Any advocacy, anything that you give, there is a change that you want it. You want it to be hard. Yes, and that is...
No, wait. Sam, it's his turn. It's his turn. Sam, it's his turn now. It's his turn. It's his turn, Sam. You have to listen. He listened to you. Listen to him.
The 3 years
you will have your
to answer your question, the 3 years Jannah protest, I would classify it as a protest whereby citizens believe that they were misled by the promise that was given to them by the government, and they're coming out to tell the government to respect that promise. And they were not supposed to be subject to the torture that they received. It was the government that was going out campaigning for the people to vote for them,
When they vote for them, they will come to office for 3 years and then make the necessary reform and then go back for election. That is what the 3 years Jonah people were protesting. But then also, you have another side, the right wing, saying, no, the constitution said 5 years and then we have to respect that 5 years, and they will again and protest. And I would say that these are also people that are protesting that there is a constitutional mandate and that has to be respected. So people have opinions that they want to demonstrate. People own the country, not governments. Governments are there as a representative of the voice of the people. So there must not be any protest whereby you should open fire or subject people to inhuman
all right, Sam. Well, gentlemen,
none of the protest.
Sam, listen to him. You have been listening to for the last.
We have a government that is notorious for silencing people for protesting. The April 10 students.
Yeah, 2000.
They were protesting for reforms. Why do they have to be subjected to that degrading?
I wish you had read my book. I would have known
listen to
what
him.
I said about
listen to him, Sam. You have had.
Yeah, but I had reasons for what happened in that.
But he had listened to you before. You started it.
There is no justification.
No, listen to me.
All right,
I am not justifying it.
Okay, man.
It was not a matter of
Sam, let's listen to something now.
But a matter of
it's Sanding Stone now. Sam, it's Sanding Stone now. Thank you, Marr, for that. We'll come back to that. Sanding, sorry.
I find it completely outrageous, but not surprised at all, because Mr. Sarr is known for such position, and that has been the case. And I would not give a lot of relevance to his conspiracies. I learned it's not working, so I would not give a lot of relevance to his conspiracy theories here and there. But just also to focus on the reality, the unchangeable reality that people have rights to protest, whether you call it instigated or not. People have democratic rights to protest. And if you think you have to disregard that democratic right, then there's a question to, your intentions, okay? And like I said, I listened to your audio and I find it very disrespectful and myopic. In fact, for someone like you who clearly does not know my father, to say he is not educated, so he does not know what electoral reforms is. I wish you see the piles of documents I have at home that he wrote and he created. As much as you
let's share them.
As much as you could
share them.
Maybe you would have the opportunity one day, but I don't think you are. I don't think you have already drawn your conclusion, so I don't think they would make a lot of.
No, I can change.
Maybe it can enlighten you as well.
Oh yeah,
hopefully. So, but what I'm trying to say is that I just feel that we need to focus on more relevant and important things than the issue of whether people are instigated or not, because you cannot really I've been listening to all that you've been saying for almost 30 minutes and I don't really see any concrete proof you're giving. It's either hearsay here and there, and you have not even made reference to any pronouncement of Solo Sanding, in fact, with regards to his position on the protest, and I find that very I find that somehow incorrect, so but I think that is despite the point, because like a proverb said, the spoon doesn't know the taste of soup, so likewise, and a learned fool, the taste of wisdom. So I just think I want to attribute that adage to, your position. But going forward, Mr. Cham, I also think, like we were saying, we are celebrating the life of Solo Sanding and the things he stood for. And it is important that we recognize that. And in as much as we don't agree with his positions, and also we wish it was somebody else or it was ourselves or something else, we just recognize the good things that citizens have stood for. Protecting your own rights, Mr. Sarr, that has allowed you to probably, come back home today and do what you're doing. Because actually you were, part of a government, and so it would be completely, difficult for you to accept that that government needed to be held to account, especially if you had the position that you were going to shoot people, just like your government did, right? It did not shoot in open air. Well, it did to the April 10/11 protesters, and likewise, Solo Sanding, who they tortured to death. So I would not I'm not surprised at all that that is your position, but I just want to say it's not the relevant part of this discussion or why I'm here. Why I'm here is because Solo Sanding he lived and died by values, in case you do not know. because I'm very sure you don't know him. Listening to all the pronouncements you did, I think you need to be educated about him and his activities. And then you can ask a lot of people around. There's a lot of international organizations he worked in that you may want to know. So one reference I would ask is that you try to speak to people I'm sure you would respect, people like Mr. Ibrahim Amane, people like lawyer Usman Silla. Maybe you would want to hear the activities of Solo Sandeng from those people, and then that
are they here?
You may check, because
no, I mean, like, you see, in the
we are not finished. It goes one after the other. No, one after the, let him exhaust one after the other.
You cannot be the one trying, because you have been talking, and as uncomfortable as all that you've been saying, you have been. I mean, everybody gave you the listening ear. I think you should have the decency to listen to people as well, right? And so what I'm just trying to put across is that Solo Sandeng lived and died for values which all Gambians appreciate, right? And he said he appreciates it too, despite his other points. But this is what is important, that we see how that adds onto the democratic process, right? And how do we, how do we grow on these gains already and create a society that is going to respect these values, right? We have moved on from that unfortunate dictatorship and that Jawara regime that had the same approach to dissenting voices and all that, or a very similar one. So it is an opportunity for us to at least appreciate the gains that were acquired through that protest and the subsequent events, and create a democratic environment, and an environment which is tolerant, and has respect for, these rights and aspirations that really move a progressive society, rather than, regurgitating some things that do not really make any impact. I would have taken a different position on some of your pronouncement, and you wouldn't like it, believe me. I have a very sour mouth, and but I think that is not the purpose why we celebrate the life of a man. Your position cannot change the position of almost 1 million people. And it would only be your position at the end of the day, which becomes irrelevant. So that's not the point. The point is that we look at what has been good about these actions and really appreciate it, and build on it to create the society that we all aspire. And that is why I think I contribute to a discussion like this, and such pronouncements. Really.
Continuing, you gave a speech at the funeral, a very emotional one, and you kind of revisited some of the things that people have been seasoned critics of the government, Solo Sandeng's once former powerful colleagues now. It's been said from across the political divide that his colleagues, both in government and outside now, have not been very much attentive to his family and legacy.
Obviously, yes. That's just clear, and it would be for different reasons, which I personally do not find, especially about the family, I do not find it to be very much of an issue, because what should be of an issue is that as citizens of this country, we bank on the democratic activities and the progressive activities of fellow citizens that really benefit the wider citizenry, and then we try to see what's good about it, despite regardless of the political differences, and see how do we really use that to contribute to the greater good of the population. And for that matter, I think his legacy, in terms of what we yearn for, electoral reforms and many other, legislative reforms and many others, these are the issues I think should really be focused on, and our attention and energy should go towards that. And like I said in my speech, those that were privileged, those that are privileged to be in the most strategic of positions, should really reflect on the ideals that led Solo Sandeng to embark on that. Like I said, this man was a man who loved his family like any other person, and believe me, I wouldn't imagine him doing such a thing if he believed he was he was doing it he was engaging in a futile exercise. And I'd also tell you that he's a man who is a strong man. He has a he has a conviction of his own, right? Like you say, instigators, no instigator. If Solo Sandeng did not believe in what he believed in, you couldn't take him out. Not even a gunpoint on his head could bring him out. I would assure you that. So it's about the belief that he had that actually led him to do things like that. So for me, what is more important is those that those that were privileged with such strategic positions, like people in the National Assembly, the presidency, and so on and so forth. Those were the people I was talking to, despite Gambians, the greater populace, having also a stake in upholding that in our various quarters. It is also important that those people who had the most strategic opportunities really make use of it. So that's why I asked the question of how much are you willing to do to uphold the legacy of Solo Sandeng? How much are you willing to push for electoral reforms? I mean, everyone else would agree with me that we still have election laws that it's very much need to change in order to accommodate all the progressive, trappings of a democratic process. So that has been my focus about it, and the family, obviously, it is just natural that Mr. Sarr probably would do another person wouldn't do, right? But it's just natural that some of those things would happen, and sometimes they might come from perceived, differences, whether political or whatever.
Yes.
But then I feel that's okay. But my point is that Solo Sandeng and all of his colleagues, they really did something that all of us appreciate, right? And we know how much these things could really have actually brought us far in our democratic process. And I think those are the gains we should...
let's talk about the foundation. There's a Solo Sandeng Foundation now, and I guess this is to push further for his legacy and his memories and what he stood for to be remembered in many ways. The government has put up an official state funeral, if you don't want to call it state. And the government recognized, according to the Attorney General, he was a catalyst. He's actually the catalyst of the democracy we enjoy now. The government actually made that point clear. Yet people felt that the government could have done more, not in terms of compensating him or his family, but to actually do the things that he stood for. And we've just enumerated things here, like electoral reforms and the laws, especially the security sector, which we will come to mind. The securities, almost all the people who violated, rights and abused people are from the security, on the orders of, the politicians, the executive. So, going forward, what does your foundation want to do in terms of keeping his legacy and keeping his, his achievements here, and of course, for people to learn from what happened?
Right. So, with regards to learning from what happened, I think I'll just share that the Solo Sandeng Foundation is working on having, documenting the life and life stories, and also many things surrounding the life of Solo Sandeng, and of course what inspired him to take on that defining activity. And so that would shed light on who he really was, to enlighten a lot of other people about who he was, what life he lived, and that warranted for him to become such a person. And that's one thing. But another thing is Solo Sandeng Foundation works in the areas like you mentioned, electoral reforms, as well as victims' participation in the transitional justice process, which we feel, we have been a part of for a moment, for a while now, and we continue, because there are people who are actually victimized and they need a voice to speak for them, and we also embark on activities like that. But what is more important is we are very much interested in reforms in the security sector, and we have been doing our part in bringing, in dialogue, security sector institutions, the citizenry, as well as the Ministry of Justice, and we continue to advocate to bring to the fore the aspirations of those that really had gone through, very, very undesired situations with the security institutions. And this is actually to bring the perspective of what could be the impact of the security institutions not really doing the right things and actually abusing their power of coercion and all that. And so we bring torture victims, victims of torture, victims of arbitrary arrest and all that, in dialogue with the security sector institutions to really, for the security sector institutions to see from the perspective of the public what impact does, the security sector not doing what they have to do or doing what they have to do right can affect, the population. Also, we work on, we feel like it is important that we educate the next generation about these democratic principles, because one would really think it was not important at all. Despite all that was happening in Gambia for a man like Solo Sendeng and those that believed in the same things he believed in, to embark on that. Other people would just sit and fold arms and rather, wine and dine with the killer and the dictator than actually stand up or even speak up against the dictatorship. So that sometimes is possibly because, they might not appreciate the impact or the necessary ability of their civil rights and many other rights. So we think it is important that we influence a generation, a population, a society that has respect for these rights through human rights education. That would really shape the next generation to avoid, in fact, another Solo Sendeng situation, because then we would have a society of informed citizens about their rights and responsibilities, and then we would have more dialogue than actually arresting and killing people. So many of those are issues that we advocate for at the foundation. Really.
Good. We go around then to Sam. Marr, you just talk about, and we mentioned this thing, that the people who arrested Solo or tortured him and the others are security people, either police, NIA, or the army. The army shot the children in 2000. Police have been known to harass, arrest people or bullying them. Now, all those things happen under the Jammeh regime. After he left, the government put up a whole scheme of programs supported by international people to reform the security so that concept is gone. Not long ago, we've heard from people who are not necessarily politicians that probably the security system, the security are still back to the same tactics, using unnecessary force, subjecting people to harassment, if not torture. How much do you think, from what we have learned and what the Solo Sendeng Foundations have been based on, do you think we have achieved in terms of reforming the concept of security?
We are yet to cross that bridge. I think one of the things that we are not, we've not been learning our lesson from the past and taking corrective measures to prevent the recurrence of what has happened in the past. The security officials, after the TRRC revelations and some of the sanctions that have been made on other security personnel, there is a bit of mindset change within the security officials. But in terms of the institution, there has to be more. And I was really happy when they were drafting the constitution, the security officials met with the drafters to actually point out some of the reforms that have to be made. And I think, from a kleptocratic regime that we have experienced, where security officials were given too much power to do as they wish without any accountability. That's the reason why the security officials were ruthless. They can kill, they can beat, they can insult, they can do as they wish, they can confiscate properties.
Has that changed?
At some point, a bit it has changed, but in terms of using force on protesters, we haven't seen that changing. Like I said, I'm not in support of every protest, but the recent protest that actually happened in the name of Sabali to be freed, I saw protesters being physically, abused. You understand? That is not acceptable. When people protest and they're protesting peacefully, right? They did not become a threat to the security, or they didn't become a threat to the country. If the
security personnel are afraid of just 10 to 15 people or maximum of 50 people going out peacefully to talk about or to demonstrate their fundamental human right. If they are threatened by those people, they don't see how our security can be actually that protective to the country. So I think the mindset has to change. You know, the thing is, some security personnel, you know, sometimes they have prejudice on.
They have preconceived.
Yeah, they see certain things going on, they didn't like it.
Or maybe they were willing tools in the hands of the politicians.
To satisfy their feelings, personal feelings, not the professional feelings. So I think the role of security officials, they took an oath when they were appointed, right? You have the solemn duty to protect the country and the property of the people, and the people most importantly. Equally also the government. The people are not becoming a threat to the government. It is the government that is now becoming a threat to the people. The people pay their taxes. They don't get to have the required quality service that they're supposed to enjoy. Why wouldn't those people go out and protest and say, we are not satisfied with what is going on? If they are going out to protest against them, why would you throw fire on them? So that really do not make sense. So I think in terms of security sector reform, the reform agenda is actually in the NDP. It hasn't yet been fully realized. Now we have the LTDV, the long-term development plan, which is now being a successor to the NDP. We just hope that this is prioritized. And like I said, electoral reform that Solo Sandeng and the others were campaigning, it was not for the UDP. They were not saying UDP electoral reform for UDP. No. They were saying electoral reform for the Gambia. If they are not satisfied with the appointment of the chairman, they have the right to come out. Because in a situation whereby the president appoints the head of the election commission, in consultation with the public service, and the public service can just advise, but the president have those responsibility to actually appoint anyone that he wishes to put in there. So if politicians wish that this has to change, right? The head of the IEC should be appointed to be confirmed by the National Assembly. They have the right to do that. Absolutely. You understand? Because it says the Independent Election Commission. It is supposed to be an independent institution. There must not be any executive interference or control of that particular of that particular institution. So if they come out to say this is what we wanted, why shouldn't we listen to them? So I think you know, we have to do a lot. Like I said, the things that the things that the protesters of April 2016 were protesting against, it has still not been realized. Like I said earlier on as well, I think to respect those protesters, right? Whether they were called to respect those protesters and the ones especially that actually lost their life, like Solo Sandeng, the election bill should have actually been named after him. Right? Whether people like it or not, like I said, I'm not UDP, but people need to start respecting. It does not actually make any sense to me for someone else to give me a penny to go out and risk my life and then be killed, knowing that when I go out, there are demons out there that are going to trample on our rights and we might actually lose our life. Why would I risk that for a dime to go out and protest? No, it didn't work out that way. People were frustrated. And until today, people are frustrated, and that's why people are going out to protest. Protest is part of the right of a human being. People protest against prophets. Prophets sit and listen to the protesters and then address their concerns. Who are we not to listen to our own people that pay their livelihood that they are living?
Now, let's go through to the security sector reform. Sam, moving from where we left, that is the circumstances that led to the demonstration led by Solo Sandeng, because obviously, like you said, you have a very unpalatable view to many people. So, but then
to you too.
well, to many people, you have an unpalatable view, controversial as it may sound. I mean, like, but let's go down to where you have a lot of expertise and where you also hold.
In fact, no, I want to respond a little bit from where he started.
Yeah, okay.
Because there are some gray areas that needed to be cleared.
Okay.
Including the April 2000 incident.
Yeah, when the students were killed.
I don't know where he was.
He must have been very young.
Yeah, but
But I was.
You were following my write-ups at that time at the Gambia. I was the first to denounce the government when they said that they use rubber bullets.
Yes, which we turned to be a lie.
Which did not exist at the time, number one. Number two, when the vice president came and said that it was the bandits who went to the police stations, took weapons and shot
You said the students started the shooting.
Thank you. I was the first to denounce that online. And everybody was, even my parents were calling me in America, why would you say this? Do you want to kill us? So what I'm trying to do, I have principles. And I am very rational. I was a soldier. I have seen soldiers risk and die on circumstances that were not necessary. The 1994 coup d'etat, the circumstances I have explained in my book, and I'm still discouraging people from that trend of thinking, and it's still being pursued, thinking that army can step in. But what I'm saying is, when that happened, I explained why it happened. That it was not a deliberate intention of the government to go out there and shoot students. But we did not have riot gears, and they were taken by surprise, because when we were in the army, I told Jame, we don't have riot paraphernalia. All that we had on riot gears were taken away by the Senegalese. The Senegalese had them in the country during the Confederation.
What, killing defenseless civilians?
No, what I'm trying to
civilians.
Yes. Because if you are to deploy me, even now you go to the football stadium, they deploy troops there with AK-47. You go to wedding ceremony. In fact, I went to Namek station the last time and found a police officer with an AK-47.
It shouldn't have been.
It shouldn't be. AK-47s are meant for war. But up to this day, police officers, soldiers, and so on are sent to operations with AK-47. And when they are cornered, they have no way but to use it.
That's what happened in Farabao.
That happened not only in Farabao, but in April 14-15. When the soldiers were cornered, because it came at a point where the whole country was ungovernable. Students, everybody, in fact the bandits were part of it. They were burning down tires. They were attacking people. They almost killed Babukar Jatta. And all they had were the guns. In fact, they were chasing the soldiers, the police officers, with their guns. And when they felt threatened, they turned and used it. And that is what always happens. Now, to know that it was not intentional, they tried to beat the business. Oh no, it was not us. Oh no, it was this. Oh no, we used rubber bullets. If they were deliberate killers, they would have come and say, yes, we did it because this and that happened. And after that, the government went further to go to the families of the victims, compensated them, and most of them even joined the APRC government.
But then they went ahead to put up an indemnity law. That's indemnity.
Yes, that came later, after they thought they had settled everything.
Well, that's criminal, isn't it?
No. I am telling you that they are trying to sort out a problem that went out of...
They knew they were around to kill innocent, defenseless.
Yes, but nobody means to kill anybody. Even soldiers don't mean to kill anybody in a war.
So you mean it was a situation that really degenerated into chaos and they had to defend themselves?
Thank you. But let me tell you one thing.
But who ordered them to do so?
Listen, if you read... it
was said Jammeh ordered this.
No, I can tell you that if it is an order from Jammeh, it's an illegal order. Those who were in the government, you had sane people, senior officers, educated people. Aïssatou Ndiaye said, all of them, Babukar Jatta, these were senior officers. If they were to take an order from Jammeh like that, they had executed illegal order. The first 101 military science is never execute an illegal order. I will never take an illegal order from any superior.
That was what was said. Jammeh was in Cuba. He was said to have said...
Yeah, but then why No, that's why I said it's not true. Nobody wants to kill anybody, even in war. It was...
So they killed the people on their own accord? I mean,
yes. It was a spontaneous situation. They panicked and reacted. I gave it in my audio today, this morning.
Okay.
That we were having a patrol. Listen, a patrol at the beach in 1996. 2 kids were having fun in this, a boy and a girl, one Kuyate. And the soldiers were just walking, and all of a sudden they jumped from the shrubs, and the boy panicked and opened fire. mistakenly and shot the boy and kill him.
So now, that's why we're talking about security reform. What can stop that now? You said you've seen AK-47.
They are not supposed to be there.
With mayor security
They are not supposed to be there. Listen, Sana Sabali, I gave a story about Sana Sabali in 1990.
Whose fault is that now?
Huh? No, still we are adjusting.
They are not reformed.
Yes, we are adjusting to reality of how to handle certain things. There are a great improvement has happened. I have seen now the PIU are carrying shields, buttons, tear gas. That's what's meant for
a democratic state.
No, not democratic, for civil controlling civil disobedience.
Okay.
Senegal, America, everywhere, that's what they use.
Okay.
It's only when people start shooting at you, then you go for the lethal weapons. But the lethal weapons should not leave the armory.
And in all the cases we are talking about, people did not shoot. The people who were shot were defenseless.
Yes, but that's what happens. If you are to burn this country down to an extent where everything comes to a standstill and you cannot stop anything, do you know what is recommended by military law? That the president should declare martial law, withdraw all police and send soldiers in the streets. If they say stop, you don't stop, I have the right to shoot you.
Well, even if the whole country disagree with the president.
I'm telling you that if it is meant to burn down the country, not only disagreement, common peaceful demonstration, but if it is, let's burn down the country, where the police cannot stop anybody. They are burning down police stations, breaking down people's properties, rendering everything ungovernable. You declare martial law and send the soldiers in the streets, so that most of the time it's the bandits. The good people don't do that.
Let's go now, Sam. What can you do yourself in terms of the security reform? Let's not drag us from the security reform. Your own personal assessment, what has changed? What has improved?
I have never been the part of the security sector reform, but I knew it started from the wrong footing.
Yes.
Because what prompted the need for security reform was the suspicion that the Jammeh government had mercenaries and foreign MFDC in the army and everywhere. I remember I was in America, I listened to Siddharth Job. He was on TFM saying that when you go to a checkpoint in the Gambia, you speak Wolof, nobody understands you. You speak English, nobody understands you. You only speak French and Jola. Now, these were the people which were all false. So when the change of government was happening, listen to me, everybody was expecting.
That is a proven fact that Jammeh has an allies in the MFDC, because when we were doing the timber trading, Jammeh was trading with this MFDC soldiers.
Yes, okay, but
so
then,
they gave them arms.
But that is different from what we are talking about. I'm talking about this is the impression. This is the impression.
What we are talking about, that Jammeh has a relationship with the MFDC. That was the impression.
That was impression, and that is what prompted this whole security sector reform, that they were coming to purge the army, remove all the MFDC rebels and so on.
That has not happened.
It cannot happen because it never existed.
But the security sector reform wasn't only focusing on the army.
But the security is still not reformed. We still have.
It was primarily the central factor, the army. That was it. And they blamed them for not even intervening when Jammeh was intransigent.
Who blamed them?
Oh yeah, I have heard that. People say you should have intervened.
I think some of the things that you say. I think some of the things that you say. Sorry for cutting you. I think some of the things that you say should really be backed. Because you just say, I heard them say...
No. It is all over. Didn't you hear people saying that... Didn't you hear people saying that when Jammeh refused to step down, the army should have forced him to step down? You didn't hear that?
People would say things. But is that what...
No. That's a separate issue I just brought in. But what I'm trying to tell you is that the army was suspected of collaborating with Jammeh, and they were loyal to Jammeh.
That's the truth. There are certain soldiers that were loyal to Jammeh, and they were illegally executing orders of Jammeh, killing people. So obviously, those are proven impressions. And I just want to
such as the junglers.
Yeah,
now he's taking my. I did not clear myself.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to where.
Yes.
What can be done so that people don't get arrested and killed by the army or the police.
Do you know what? Let me close, and I can even go and leave you guys to finish this.
No.
Listen to me. When in 1992, when Jawara was no longer having any confidence in the army, what did he do?
He went to Nigeria.
Yeah, he went to Nigeria and said, can you come and sort out the army for me?
Don't we have similar situation now? Most people said our security is in the hands of Senegalese.
Yeah, but then it is not in the contract that we had with the Nigerians.
What sort of contract do we have now?
What did we have with the Nigerians?
We had technical assistance.
Not only technical assistance,
but
Jawara and Babangida, who were close friends, signed a memorandum of understanding and agreement that the Nigerian commanders are going to take charge of the command and control of the whole army for 2 years, sort it out, put the chain of command in the way it should be, and hand over to those whom they think can run the country well. And they came with that kind of mentality.
Is that what we have here now?
That's what, I'm telling you, listen to me. When they arrive, when the Nigerians arrive, they put us into weeks of examination and test and certify the army. Put everybody according to your ability, which has never been there before. And they presented it to the government, but the government was not satisfied with the people they put across to them. How do we do this? They say, okay, then give us extra 2 days and we will sort it out. The month they started that chain was the month the coup d'etat happened. So nothing was done. This time around, we are looking at a similar scenario where we were talking about Jammeh's army. And when you talk about Jammeh's army, they came and cherry-picked those whom they think are too bad and weeded them out. But everybody was bad. Because most of those who are serving in the army today were there day one and they continue today. In fact, some of them were even there before, during Jawara's days. But what was toxic was that there were rapid promotions, there were illegal promotions, people were carrying ranks they were not entitled to carry, and they are still there.
They are still there up to now.
Oh yeah.
So hence the need for reform.
How can you reform when the very people holding the institutions are afraid of being victims of the reformation?
So that's what's happening now.
So you agree? I think that's right.
Yeah,
that's definitely right.
We agree with you.
Yes, obviously, I agree with him on that.
Yeah.
And
but you want me to tell you what my solution is?
Yes. What's your solution? What do you think? Because what we would want is for a situation where you are saying that the soldiers will come face to face with the civilians, they got panic and spontaneously.
Oh yeah.
We don't want that situation. And
even it happened in Kudak. Sabari was going with his men for a hunting trip. What is the solution now? A bushbeak just jumped and the soldier panicked and killed the sergeant on duty.
So what do we do now? What going forward? What is this?
Yes, before you there are things. It is a very interesting job that probably a lot of Gambians will not love. One of the most stable periods in our country, I have told you this, where you don't even think about the security because everything about them was resolved. They will never think about coming out in the streets. Was during the Confederal days between 1981 and 1989.
Oh yes, you talk about incorporating Gambian soldiers into ECOMIC.
Thank you.
You think that is the best way?
That was how we had it during the Confederation. During the Confederation, Senegalese were literally like an occupying force or a peacekeeping force with the threat at the back of the mind of the government that Kukoi could come back anytime and destabilize the country. But in order for us to be part of the whole process of defending the country, we found ourselves being part of it. Every time a company from the Gambia army was attached to the foreign units and they were rotated. And every time before you are rotated to the Confederation, you have to prove that you are a good soldier, a disciplined soldier, and a person willing to work for the general welfare of everybody. Nobody was thinking about a rebellion because when you go to the Confederation, you are well paid, you are well taken care of for the period you are there. In fact, when you leave, you are better off. Now, why don't we look at that confederal protocol?
I see.
Go back, use it as a platform to reform the army. Test those who are good enough to go there. And when they pass, they go there, work with them, and while they are working, you are testing another batch. About 1,200 Senegalese are sent here every I think 6 months or 1 year. Why don't we take 400 for the Gambia army, rotate them, work with them, and they come back? That will keep them in their mind that, look, I have to be a good soldier to go there. And everybody who goes there, those who don't go there, cannot pass, they will know, yeah, I don't have the ability to be there. And they will benefit like them because the European Union is paying them. And they will keep the peace.
So that's
and they will be familiar. They will go to the border with them. No Senegalese drone will be shot without their presence, and it will be great.
So that you think is better than today? They're feeling that they are marginalized. Their roles have been taken by Senegalese troops.
If you listen to Ibu Jallo's show last night, he said it. 1993. I walked into the Secretary General's office. I was the staff officer. I was the liaison person between the army and the government. I went to the secretary and said, you made the greatest mistake in history. The Nigerians are here. They don't know that the balance of power was between the army and the TSG, the Tactical Support Group. We had everything equally. Ammunition, arms, manpower. But the Nigerians came and transferred all the power to the army and left the TSG. And I told them, this is a recipe for disaster. The day the army gets up, nobody is going to stop them. And that's what happened. But what I'm trying to say again is that in order for us...
the reforms, and our focus is on the reforms.
I think, Mr. Sarr, because of your security and military background, you have been focused for the last 10 minutes on the army. But what we see now is more of the paramilitary, the police, the PIU, that are actually doing some of these things that we are more concerned about, like
excessive force.
Excessive force on protesters and so on and so forth.
You know why? You know why? Because there's a competition always between the police and the army. They always want to outshine each other in the system. And that is why they don't want the Gambia government to ever even thinking about using the army for anything.
I think the Gambia government has...
Before 1994, the soldiers were like this. They were useless sitting down. Every day, they are useless. The Nigerians are here. They drink attire, smoke, get their time, and listen to the politicians. It was the politicians who really drove that idea in their minds that we should change this government. Sana Sabali said it.
But
it is our right.
Suggesting now that
it is our right to change the government when it is corrupt.
So you were suggesting that during Jammeh's time, the army were everywhere.
They were happy.
The police were
marginalized. The police were also happy in the sense that
they were marginalized.
No, it's not. Because what happened was during Jammeh's time, luckily we had this international peacekeeping mission to Darfur and everywhere. The police were part of it.
I see.
The NIA were part. Even the prison officers. I met prison officers who said I went to Darfur twice. So the security they were taken care of. But if you don't take care of them, they are listening to the politicians. The politicians are poisoning their mind. Up to this day, the UDP are saying, and Mama Kande are saying that the election was stolen by Adama Barrow. Up to today,
yes.
It was stolen by when people who voted for Adama Barrow knows that he won the election. That is like defamation of the character of even the defamation of the
But they attempted to bring evidences in the courts, and the court wouldn't try it.
Well, we have the courts. The courts have also thrown in things that the government wanted to push, and they accepted.
For the elections,
the politicians...
we were observing the election, and we have concluded that the election was free and fair. It wasn't stolen.
Yeah, and they were international observers.
To go back...
They were international observers who came and confirmed it. Now, to say that it is...
I mean, not only that, but also now it's time to give relevance to also domestic observers. I mean, not only us, but there are so many other domestic observers that concluded the election was free and fair.
And was rightly won by Barrow.
That is undisputable. But we are not also saying in our reports that there were events ahead of the elections that were not supposed to be done, like the use of state resources that give power more to the incumbent. But no, we are not talking about that today. I think
and
also...
the said alleged stuffing of the register with foreign voters.
That is what is disputed. That did not exist.
But
there was nothing like that.
And that goes back to the attestation of, alcalos giving attestation to who, like I said earlier, who they don't know. So, but then if the law said the alcalo can attest to someone else, if the alcalo attests to those people and they're given a voter's card, then that should have been questioned in the voter register.
That is the reforms.
Before the elections.
That brings back the necessity of the reforms.
That's the reforms we're talking about.
So,
that is the lack of reform. I just told you that with that amendment, before the amendment, the IEC has the powers. I mean, they have said this. Even during Jawara's time, the elections used to be conducted by a department of Gambia government. But once the electoral officer is appointed, he or she is empowered to work independently. I mean, he has the powers, even if you turn over the Gambian diplomatic passport, the power still vested in the electoral officer to say, no, I don't believe that you acquired this, legally, so I'm not giving you the vote. You go to the revising court. Do you know? And convince the judge at the revising court. Look, do you know what the electoral officer has denied me, saying that he doesn't believe my Gambians. But with the amendment that Jammeh introduced, he disarmed the electoral body. He disarmed them and said, whoever turns over the Gambia government document, he has to vote. And the parliament passed that. So a man can come from Jamaica, go to immigration, a minister can send him, and he go to immigration. The immigration officer is listening to the politician. He will give him a passport, and he will go and vote. So you cannot discount that people have voted who are not Gambians.
Excuse me. You just talking about that? You just talking about what about buying of votes? Buying of votes.
That is the reforms that Solo Sunday.
Buying of votes was more done by Barrow.
No. How will you say? This has been since time of Jawara.
The laws that allow the Alcalolu to do
nobody knows.
Is what Solo Sunday wanted to go.
Jawara, guiding down the votes openly, man. I know it. I have seen it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I agree. That
how do you change that?
No, in fact, the electoral law.
How do you change that?
The electoral law.
That's true. Says Jawara
that the bribery and also buying of votes is illegal. The problem is enforcement of the electoral law, and we have
because do you know?
You know what happens, Sam?
Enforcement is a problem when the approach is wrong.
No, Sam. You know what?
If I were to pass a law that every citizen who is in this country must vote,
Sam, you know why enforcement
must vote,
you know why,
and you account for your voting card, it will stop selling of votes.
Recently,
because you will vote or else you will be suspended from ever voting again.
That's not the holistic solution.
That's the problem.
Because,
that is very difficult to enforce. Again, that will be difficult to enforce.
No, the foreigners, you
know why it's difficult. You know why it's difficult to enforce.
It will take a chunk of...
Sam, listen. You know why it's difficult to enforce the rule banning foreigners to vote? It should take the incumbent to do it, and the incumbent always benefit from it. From Jawara, Jammeh to Barrow. That is why it's not possible to enforce. That's the gospel truth.
In fact, that's
the gospel truth.
You know what?
It has to take the government. It has to take the government. It has to take the government.
The electoral college.
Make a bold initiative and say, look, we will ensure that no foreigner voted. But all the time, it benefits them from Jawara to Barrow.
Yeah, that's politics.
That's the problem.
That's politics.
That's where the problem is.
The issue of attestation.
The electoral college mess.
We have to go to the law.
The electoral college mess is still being counted in the United States of America by particularly the Democrats.
But at least the law,
the majority,
but at least the law
doesn't give you the votes to stand to win.
But at least the law there has been sanitized. There are loopholes that the incumbent can always capitalize on to stay in power. That's every country.
It's all over the world.
That's it. But it's
and that's what incumbents are for.
But it's not a desirable.
Perhaps
the desirable thing is for us to have laws that will ensure equity.
Listen, the Constitution of the Gambia in 1996. Ibu Jallow said it yesterday in his program. It was one of the best constitutions that the Ghanaians helped us to write.
96, yeah.
The 1996 Constitution.
96.
Yes. All the security officers, the senior officers, we went to talk about our situation, what we think should be done. I remember,
but in fact, some of them have been taken out.
Yes, subscribing to the fact that we should have 2-term limits. Consecutive 2-term limit was over, that's it. The speech
was taken out.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that that constitution was so good that if the coalition government was up to the task they had set for the Gambians.
They could have amended that.
They would have taken that original constitution, because one of the IEC guys, not the Constitutional Review Commission, I think it was the chairman who said he has the original one. He said it.
Yes.
They could have taken that one. Everything that was taken out, put it back in.
Okay.
Things were that added.
For example,
and then you save us for paying over $100 and how many million dollars for the thing that was thrown away. That was the best solution. But when they came, what happened? They started butchering the very agreement. It was a gentleman's agreement. It wasn't anything constitutional. The 3 years Jotna and all those things. They should have just agreed on it, worked on it. And I had Barrow saying that, yes, I'm going to do it. But who was the first to say, it's not going to happen here on my watch? Anybody who claims 3 years here, I'm going to take you to the courts and get your behind.
But again, it's the politicians.
Yes, but then the same politicians. Now you see, that is when where they started rupturing the intention of the masses, and the very people who thought they were going to benefit from it ended being the victims of the whole situation. And turn around and
then eventually
you say what?
That was Marijuana's claim a few days ago, that the whole of the coalition leaders actually failed in one way or the other. And
no, it failed. Sunday it failed in Dhaka, because well before they came, their agreement was to form a government that was different from what was established in Dhaka.
Let's move forward.
In fact, Khalifa Saleh was fired in Dhaka by my family.
Let's
you are
now let's
the story does not. I gotta go.
No, we are going. Now
I gotta go. I'm sorry if I have anything negative to say or whatever. If I knew you were going to be here, I was not even going to be here. You didn't tell me you were going to be here.
Same thing. If I knew, I wouldn't.
Definitely. No. Because I hate to have this kind of.
I think I have to explain this. I invite people based on opinions that they share on a given matter, no matter how controversial or unpalatable. So that is why I invited you, because you had contributed to the Solo Sunday debate that most people found difficult to digest. So I brought you in.
Because I was
I brought him.
I was doing this because day one. So I knew the instigators. I knew the funding.
Now let's
I
move
was
on.
following it. That's why I was very angry about it.
Let's move on.
Yes.
We were talking about
security sector reform.
We have
my last part on that, on security sector reform, I think also,
we finished.
Yeah, the security personnel, the government needs to have confidence on them, give them better services and remuneration for security officials. And I think the security officials are also not happy because of their living standard that they are living, protecting the life of the people but not getting well remunerated. And this is the reason why in our campaign for a new grading scale, we were also pushing for this, for the security officer to have a better remuneration. At least when they have the peace of mind, right, all of these dubious activities that they get into, perhaps we would not have been seeing that. So also soldiers, in most countries like Mali, they will become angry when they see politicians personalizing public wealth at the expense of the poor and also at their expense, and that's the reason why you see this coup d'etat coming in. So for that also to happen, government must minimize their public sector corruption and so that the wealth of the country is judicially distributed, and for those that are risking their life protecting the people should be given the decent salary and life that they deserve, right? So I think once that is done, that's also part of the security sector reform. And I'm sure during the constitutional review process, the security, institution might have bring this up.
Yeah.
It is so unbelievable seeing soldiers. Irrespective of the things that we have done, there's good side of our security sector, and the Senegalese and others will always praise the Gambian soldiers about that. They will say in other countries, soldiers at the checkpoint and the police will create problems to make money from you. But here in our case, they will ask for money. Right. Sometimes you feel for it. It's not their responsibility to do that.
But what is better?
Nothing is better, man. Believe me, they will still give you problems.
What is better than that?
Yeah. So I think.
And even they will blackmail you to get away. But this, in our way, we just directly ask.
So sometimes you feel that situation because giving someone else $3,000 is, and the inflation is going high. Living standards is being more expensive. Health is becoming more expensive. Private sector health, and then also food inflation, rental fee is becoming high, and we are living in a congested city now, KMC, and we are not having any plan to move out or create new cities where people can move into. So soldiers growing up, and now people are so accustomed to living alone with their family, they cannot afford that because their salary is not giving them that life that they wish to live. So even, I mean, in other countries, you've been to the US, you see how soldiers are. Even at the airports, soldiers don't queue. When they go to stores, anything that they are buying, they have a 10% discount. So
we have in America, we have our own stores.
I think it used to happen here.
Yes, we have our own stores in America.
I remember here, soldiers don't pay public transport.
In every store that you go to,
they don't pay public transport. When public transport was around.
That is just one part of it. What I'm saying here is soldiers also deserve a decent life.
So let me add one more thing. I'm sorry. You know, in 1996, I attended a course in Ghana where the thesis for our graduation was what is going to be the role of armies in this modern generation against the backdrop of the disintegration of the Cold War or the ending of the Cold War, because most armies were built. Most armies were built against the background of the Cold War being fought between the Soviets and the Western world. So all doctrines. In fact, it found me in 1992, and they changed all their doctrines and their training programs because everything was done on how to fight the Soviets. This was in Ghana, and I wrote and said that armies should be insulated in preparation for peacekeeping because this is going to be the new role and the relevance of all armies.
Well, I mean, but who started the lack of peace in the first place?
Yes, no. Because do you know what? Because at that time, ECOMOG had, for the first time, achieved their objective in Liberia.
In Sierra Leone as well.
No, Liberia.
No, Sierra Leone.
It started from Liberia.
I know that.
And I even recommended that we should get a school for peacekeeping in Liberia. My DS was angry. Oh, no, you, Sarr, you don't know what you're talking about. But that's what they ended doing in Ghana. And that's what ended. Most armies were transformed into peacekeeping forces, and that's what is going on. And now that...
But coup d'etats are still happening. Now,
yes, now that we have changed, for a while it has stabilized.
Finally, Sam, what do you make of ECOWAS setting up a force that is going to deter coups as well as fight?
That's a joke. Because that's a joke. If Nigeria organizes a coup today, who's going to stop them? Mali did.
Yeah, nobody's
going to stop them.
It's not applicable.
Probably it's just for Gambia.
Countries with large
where they can walk in.
Yes.
Countries with large armies, you cannot do that.
You cannot do that. Yeah. Real armies, you cannot do that. So what I'm saying
probably they think that
you know what?
No, listen. Probably they think that the Nigerian, Ghanaian, and Senegalese army are so much sanitized
that they never
could not happen there.
Yeah.
It has to come from the countries, rock countries.
But they cannot go anywhere. Let me tell you, it's only Gambia. And well, listen to me. What I think is, listen, we also in the post peacekeeping era, where peacekeeping forces are being cut down, reduced. Darfur is out. Central Africa. Somebody just called me from Central Africa today.
There is peace now.
Central Africa today and say we are coming home. It's close.
Yeah, even Gambia.
So very soon, the thousands of soldiers in the army are not going anywhere. They're going to be sitting in the barracks doing nothing.
And they will be asking for more.
I also think the real solution to cutting that out is not just a military solution. It is also the solution of cutting out public sector corruption as well as...
Yes, but okay. No. That is like you are talking in a way that I don't even want the soldiers to hear it.
Well, there we go. Then perhaps that's
what you should do. What you should do now is insulate the new security forces in the Gambia and turn them into what we had in 1981. Change the army into a paramilitary force. They will have the role of both soldiers and police officers.
But there are
the country lacks security.
There are too many.
We can use them in the streets. Even if you said to one street in Serekunda that we can post you 3 soldiers and you pay them yegi attire and so on to keep your street, they will do it. Just patrol, let them be seen.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Transform our army into a paramilitary force.
I also think, With regards to, like we said, the most close to us is actually the police and the paramilitary. And for us, I think what we also need to do, in addition to increasing their wages and at least making them, a little bit comfortable and able to carry out their jobs, it is also important that we train them with regards to some of these, these ideals like civil rights and a lot more others. I think even where these trainings keep happening, the addition of, getting them comfortable through, incentivizing them is really important, because all that will increase to the improvement of the psychology of really, rendering security, while at the same time being ready to do it. Because this is what happens. It's easy to get frustrated and tired.
And illegal orders.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mohamed Sandeng from the Slow Sandeng Foundation, Marr Nyang from Gambia participates, and of course, Sharif Samsidin Sarr, our security expert and former army commander. Thank you all for your input.
I was also a diplomat, don't forget.
Oh, well, no, I'd say what you were. You were a diplomat too.
I gotta go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We live in a day and age where technology is creating a world without borders, filled with unlimited potential to improve the lives of the people around us. Innovarex Global Health ushers in a new way of leveling the playing field with increased access to quality healthcare services delivered at your doorstep. Our qualified professionals are equipped with state-of-the-art point-of-care testing technology to conduct tests such as kidney function, liver function, electrolyte tests, body composition, hemoglobin, A1C, and many more services with the highest efficiency in delivering results. The addition to our flagship Wellness on Wheels, more fondly known as WOW Delivery Service, brings the entire clinical experience full circle. IGH has remained committed to creating the future of healthcare delivery. Gone are the days of sending loved ones outside the country for basic medical services. Innovarex Global Health offers a new peace of mind and takes pride in delivering the quality of care we all deserve.
Islamic microfinance is becoming an increasingly popular mechanism for poverty alleviation, especially for developing countries around the world. This microfinance service adheres to the principles of Islam as a form of social responsibility. Yona Islamic Microfinance is the Islamic microfinance of choice in the Gambia, trustworthy and reliable. At Yona Islamic Microfinance, we provide savings products, current accounts, financing products in conformity with Islam. In addition, Yona Islamic Microfinance also offers local and international remittances, takaful fund, management of zakat, management of awqaf, trading and investment, and building of strategic partnerships to bring financial services to the doorstep of the poor with donor projects, madrasas, youth organizations, women groups, and farmer organizations. Make a choice with Yona Islamic Microfinance today. For more information on Yona Islamic Microfinance, call 377-2151 or 9832-151 or visit Yona head office at Tipa Garage, Bakote, or visit any Yona branch located countrywide near you.